Millions of years ago, when dinosaurs roamed North America's landscape, another ecosystem full of monstrous animals were fighting for existence in a vast interior seaway which spanned the continent from the Arctic Ocean to the Gulf of Mexico. These savage ancient seas were the domain of some of the most fearsome real sea monsters to ever swim Earth's oceans. Waters throughout most of this epicontinental sea were warm and teeming with life, especially microscopic life, which was the food base fueling this thriving marine community. Algae floating near the water's surface converted sunlight and carbon dioxide through photosynthesis into chemically stored energy, the energy that flowed up the food chain to eventually feed even the most monstrous marine reptiles. Fossils from the animals living in this seaway during the late Cretaceous are buried in chalk rock, which is composed largely of the tiny carbonate skeletons that once formed inside these single-celled organisms. As these plankton died, they drifted to the seafloor where they decomposed. The decomposition process chemically removed oxygen from the water near the sea floor. Animals living along the bottom of the seaway were adapted to this oxygen-depleted environment. The giant clam species that lived here are notable examples of such an adaptation. Their enormous size allowed them to grow gills large enough to capture enough oxygen from the water to survive. These oxygen-depleted waters also prevented large scavenging fish from disturbing carcasses that sank to the bottom. This allowed these remains to lay undisturbed on the seafloor long enough to be buried and preserved as fossils to be found millions of years later. Today, one of the best places to find this ancient seafloor outcropping as fossil-bearing rock is about as far from an ocean as a person could possibly be in the United States. The chalk beds of western Kansas contain the fossilized remains of late Cretaceous creatures that would truly seem to us like sea monsters. Most of the fossil creatures you will see in this exhibit were found here. The skeletons you will see are cast replicas produced using molds of these original fossils. The size, shape, and even surface texture of the original fossil bones is transferred to these steel-reinforced casts, allowing paleontologists and artists to work together to mount these precise reconstructions in accurate, lifelike poses. When the original fossils are missing some of their pieces, we use modern engineering technologies like three-dimensional scanning and 3D printing to accurately recreate the missing pieces. We scan other fossils to digitize them and then make changes to the digital model. Changes like making the model a little bigger or smaller, or making a mirror image if we need a piece symmetrical to the bone we started with. We can 3D print such models and use the prints to help fill in the pieces that were weathered out and naturally destroyed before the fossil was found, or that were not fossilized to begin with. With complete skeletons of these sea monsters to work with, paleontologists are able to compare their anatomy to the skeletons of modern animals. We can begin to discover how these creatures looked and lived even though they were all extinct long before anyone was around to see them. If you brought a smartphone or tablet with you today, you can use it to view models depicting what each living sea monster may have looked like as it swam the western interior seaway. Use your device's camera or QR code reader app to read the QR code you see on signs and navigate to these life models in your browser. You will need to adjust your Wi-Fi settings to connect to the Cretaceous or Cretaceous 5G network signal being broadcast from inside the exhibit to access these models. The graphics throughout the exhibit contain these QR codes along with other information about these fossil sea monsters. Silhouettes of people are embedded in the artwork to give you a sense of scale, while the presumed diet of each animal is depicted as stenciled icons similar to the mission markings applied to the sides of military aircraft. The maps you will see in the signs show where in the world these fossil species are known to have been found. The exhibit also contains hubs that elaborate on the ecology and comparative anatomy of these ancient sea monsters, and a touchscreen you can use to learn how fossils are found, restored, and used to produce exhibits like the one you are about to experience. With all of that said, it is time to enter the savage ancient seas. Please take and share all of the photos and videos you wish while being courteous to others in the exhibit, and don't forget to join the Cretaceous Wi-Fi network to access additional content on your phones or tablets.